Welcome back to Inklings Behind the Scenes. My name is Cody Lawhorn, and I am one of the producers and the head writer on Inklings. Today is another Writer's Room Takeover, and we are going to be creating that list for Jesse and Daniel. Today we are going to be talking about revealing character, but more specifically, revealing character through art design or production design in the live action realm. As far as animation goes, I believe the majority of character revealing elements within an animation does happen from the actions of our animated characters themselves. I want to be clear that I'm not saying that this is true of all animation, both animated feature films and series. But aesthetically, typically, when you are watching an animated show, the objects of our attention, the characters, which are in the foreground, tend to be very vibrant and vivid in color. Backgrounds in those animations tend to be more subtle. The color palettes tend to be maybe slightly more muted. Maybe the hues are toned down a little bit. But when you look at these backgrounds in cartoon shows or feature films, you, as the audience, can clearly distinguish which parts within the frame will be animated and moving, and which parts are static, the parts that are meant to just be the background art. I think for me, when I view animation, I only see the characters in the foreground because they're bright, they're rich in color, they pop out, they're moving. But backgrounds are definitely very important, especially within a character's room, their own environment. Where is it that these characters, these bugs, spend their time when they are alone? So today we are going to discuss Poe's room. What types of things are in Poe's room? Now keep in mind that the entire second episode of Season 0, with the exception of when Poe is diving into his own imagination as he is thinking about what he would be doing when he is wearing each hat. With the exception of those moments, Poe will be dancing and singing around his room. So let's get to it. I think, first of all, it's safe to say that Poe's room will definitely have books in it, as they are in a library. I think it's safe to say that any books on the shelves should be horror film books, classic horror stories, anything that our minds typically go to as far as classic literature when it comes to horror. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Hounds of Baskerville. Now, we don't need to see the titles on the spines of all of the books on the shelves, but one title here or there peppered in, I think would be a nice touch. I think Poe, as dramatic as he is, might have some type of skull, either on a desk or on a bookshelf, maybe a candle with melted wax, perhaps a magnifying glass like Sherlock Holmes uses. Maybe we see, surprisingly enough, a snow globe, or maybe a Newton's cradle if Poe has a desk. Maybe we see like a captain's hat that's just hanging out on one of the bedposts in Poe's room. Also, another thing which I think would be unique and funny, even though he's a stink bug, Poe likes his space and his world his way. So I imagine Poe having a big, comfy bed. Maybe Poe even has one of those nighttime eye masks to keep light out as he's trying to sleep. For continuity purposes, Poe does have to have at least one bedroom window, and it does need to be overlooking the front steps of the library. I think that Poe, throughout his life, has always wanted to be the hero, but because others never saw him that way, I think he has accepted the fact that he is just generally misunderstood. And therefore, I think he is more accepting of villainous roles. Now, keep in mind, every villain is the hero of their own story. Maybe Poe's room is more like his castle. Maybe the blankets on the bed are these royal, red, rich, puffy comforters. Maybe even there's a chandelier that hangs down. Definitely a medieval one, not one that's made of like Swarovski crystals or anything like that. It would definitely have to be an older cast iron black chandelier with candles. Perhaps the floors are made of wood. They are in the attic of this library. But perhaps the walls are made of bricks. I don't think Poe is one to leave his clothes lying around. I think Poe has a big trunk of clothes, maybe at the foot of his bed. I do think Poe would have a leather armchair by the fire, a place for him to stay cozy and warm. Poe is most definitely a creature of comfort. Although he's a stink bug, that doesn't mean he needs to live a dirty lifestyle. I think being a stink bug means that you like things a certain way. You like your space a certain way. When things aren't exactly the way you want it, you throw a fit. You find that your entire world is shaken and turned upside down when your space is not exactly the way that you want it. At least I think that's what it means to be a stink bug. Now I realize that this episode just sounds like I'm rambling on, but I hope that the person that finds the most value in this episode is Daniel. Daniel will be the one illustrating our backgrounds that we will be using in the show. This is a really important job because backgrounds for Poe's room alone, we could have anywhere from 3 to 5, eventually maybe even a dozen different backgrounds. Now, when I send him over the list of official backgrounds, I may have notes on particular shots that we want to see for that specific episode within that one particular room. I think one thing that everyone can agree on is that our rooms, specifically our bedrooms, they change depending on what it is we're going through in our lives. Sometimes they are neat and tidy and everything's clean. Sometimes we live in chaos. Believe it or not, this is actually something I do when I'm having trouble writing or finding the voice of any character that I write. I think about what their room looks like. What do they do when no one else is around? What food would they order at a restaurant? All of these questions help put the pieces of the puzzle together, not only for character development, but also to help us with the plot. Thank you for listening to me as I ramble on about character revealing traits through production design. After I get Jesse and Daniel all set up with every single background we need for episodes 1 and 2 of season 0, I believe next time we meet on Friday, we will be diving into the next episode, which is either going to be Favorite Fables or Tales of Horror. I hope all of you have an absolutely wonderful week, and always remember that reading a book is a gift to yourself.